Here we are in the asset editor. We're going to go ahead and plug this building in and kind of check this out and kind of see how it looks in game. If you recall, in the break, we kind of threw everything back into Blender to check it out and kind of adjust some things like the UVs, the textures. And here's our building. So basically what I've done is I've gone into the asset editor here. I'm sorry, I didn't even explain what I was doing. We go to the asset importer, and I'm going to click. Now this is where you can select the different types of assets you're going to do. Now for the most part, you're going to want to do building, and you're going to make these buildings into parks, etc. Now if you do park, I think that's just going to go ahead and load up a blank space. So if you make a bunch of props or buildings that you want to add into the park, you can do it that way. So we're going to click building, and if you actually click into building, you'll notice that you have a park selection, which is this thing right here, these trees. And I've got a few assets loaded up, but most of these are going to be just the generic ones. For asset editing, I've created a quick way at loading up different things here. So I'm going to click just this basic French garden, and these will have, I believe, different properties. So I think the Japanese garden, for instance, will allow you to make sunken assets and things that exist under the terrain. So it does kind of matter, I think, to an extent, which template you use, especially with growables. If you start clicking these residentials, and to be honest, I'm the bad guy to talk about growables, so I've never made one. So, but I've read a lot about these things, and these different ones will kind of affect it differently, and you'll have to do some research yourself on that. But anyways, let's go back to the parks and click our French garden and go to continue. Now here's a little note. If you are reloading your asset and you've already placed props, a quick way so that you don't have to recreate everything is load existing props and decorations. Now because we're loading the French garden and it has its own set of props and stuff, I don't want to click this button since we're doing a new asset. So now we're going to see if you've loaded your FBX and everything properly and you click your file, your asset should pop up right here, and it should allow you to view it. And as you can see, we've got our building loaded up. Not so shabby. There's a lot of errors. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do to fix this, but for just a quick tutorial, I don't think it looks too bad. So anyways, next thing we can do is what I'm going to do actually is this will be the thumbnail. I've figured out or found out that when you rotate your asset first, the default thumbnail that will load will actually be the view that you actually set this in. So I like to set this view into a somewhat logical way so that my building is seen, and I'll click continue. And as your asset loads up, you're going to notice here it is. And if we did everything right now it looks like it loaded it up on a 3x4 because I believe some of these might be extending a little further back here. So if we actually click the 2 button here, you'll notice that this is almost a perfect 2x4 plot, except these kind of ledges right here kind of stick out. So I think the game recognized that. So in case these are wall to wall or something, it actually gave it a little buffer, which we will actually do. So I want this to be like a 3x4, I guess, instead of a 2x4. I guess I lied when we first made the model. And to test this, what I'm going to do is just kind of give it a cement base here. And you're going to notice in the asset editor, everything's whitewashed. I don't know if there's a good way to fix this, but basically this is something that's due to the asset editor. I guess this is going to look a little different when we throw it in game, but the only way I found to really correct this is to kind of change your lighting a little bit, but even then it just is, it's really bad. So unfortunately you can't really get a good view of this asset without it really looking whitewashed like this. So I mean, maybe there's some ways if we just really fine-tune the lighting here and get it to look just right. Maybe there's a couple ways, but anyways, if we go around and just do a quick visual, this it doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's a few things that could be fixed, but our normals look like they're, I mean, I think they're okay. The building textures, I mean, again, these are quick textures, they're not really great, but everything looks okay. I mean, these splotches look ugly all around the top here, and if we were to do this really, we'd get rid of all of those and actually do a better texture job. But I really like the overall windows and the garages, and everything looks okay. So anyways, let's add some props. Just add a couple quick props up here to kind of cover that splotch in the middle, like I was saying earlier. I don't even know if it's that noticeable, but I'd like to cover it anyway. And I can't remember where those vent props are. I always have to click through a million of these until I find them. There they are. Figure we can add maybe a couple of these, some big ones right around here. I don't know, I'm just kind of trying to hide those splotches a little bit, and at least maybe putting those vents will make it look like it's stained from the vents. So anyways, let's go to the sides here. Maybe we'll put I don't know, there's really nothing we can put on this side. The garages, you don't want anything marking or blocking it, so we can put a lamppost or something. I don't know, that looks stupid. I guess just leave it alone. Just leave it how it is. So at this point, actually I don't even know why I put these props on, because we're going to go back into the Gimp file, and those normals came out really good actually on the top. You can see how those lines really kind of pop there. So I guess doing the hand painting lines really do pay off. As you can see here, I really like how those came out. So anyways, we're going to go back into Gimp and actually finish up our textures. So one thing that you're going to notice here is that if we go into the night mode, we have no lights on our texture. And it's actually funny that in night mode is actually, I can see my building a lot better in almost true form than in the dark mode. So the other thing I'm noticing is our texture on the normals for this brick. I mean, that just, I don't know, that looks pretty garbage to me. So we're gonna roll with it because, like I said, I mean, you can spend a lot more time on these and make these a lot better. But yeah, that could be worked a bit, I think, in my opinion. So it just doesn't look like brick really. It kind of just looks like weird divots in there that don't make any good sense. So I don't know, it almost looks like stucco or something. It doesn't even look like brick in a way. I guess when you zoom out it looks better, but I mean, when you're zooming in on this sucker, that does not look that good. So so if we zoom out, actually, you know what, the game LOD does not really even look that bad since we have such a simplistic box. If you look, you can look real closely and you can see the LOD snapping in and out here. Now the texture kind of messes up right here, so it's not really that perfect. But to be honest, we'll go through and import the LOD anyway when we're finalizing all this, and it's kind of the testing run here. So we'll go back into the Gimp again. We'll exit out of here and we'll go back into Gimp. Then we'll kind of finish up our mapping. So look, we have our normal and diffuse map. What we want to finish up with is our specular map and our illumination map. We don't have any cutouts, so we're not going to need the alpha map, and we don't need any coloring, so we don't need any of the color mapping. So looks like I have this normal map screen up, so what we're going to do is open up our diffuse screen, and I actually like to create like a new layer here, and I'm going to call it Specular. As you can tell what it will be here in a minute, and that is the right size. So we have a new layer on top of this, and what we're going to do is basically click through our layers and kind of select what we want here. So what I'm going to do is I want to select the windows, and this is going to be kind of difficult here because we actually don't have a good way at just selecting these. I guess maybe if we use this color picker, we can kind of start clicking around here and seeing if we can select everything. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe the fuzzy wand, that's not going to work either. So anyways, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way here, and I think an easy way to do this is just select everything and then deselect these spots here. Just make it so we don't have to be so meticulous with each and every box. And I'm not being as exact as I could be. So we'll be careful, a little more careful here. And so I think I'm going to add a couple pixels to this side. Now, the thing I want to just discuss real quick too is that on the specular map, you have to be very exact with your coloring here. And the reason why I'm adding a new layer and actually adding on top of this, because I don't even want to have all of these different pixel discolorations and issues going on with this diffuse. So what I'm going to do is just clean some of these spaces up here, so I only have the window selected. And I'm going to go over to our alpha or our specular level. And on these ones, I want these to be basically fully reflective. So on our specular map, the way to do that is, it's again, the specular map is in grayscale. So complete whites is going to be 100% reflective. Everything will reflect off of this, and you'll see like the city skyline and stuff in the windows. The lower that this reflection on the grayscale. Now in Gimp, what you would want to do here is this value button. This is your grayscale. So this is basically when people say 50% gray, this is what they mean. This value is 50%, right? Or 128, 128, 128 in the red, green, and blue RGB scale there. So anyways, for this window, we want these to be basically, I want them to be, for this example, just purely reflective. So we're going to do this at 100%, and we're going to make sure we're on our specular level, and we're going to hit the fill button on those. Alright, and then so the next thing I want to do is on this layer is I want to select all of the white there, and actually, we can do that later. We can do that later. So what I want to do now is I'm going to click on our garage level, and I'm going to invert that selection, and I'm actually going to make all of that black. We do not want any of that to be reflective. Alright, and so one thing I'm going to do, and I don't know if this is going to actually do anything whatsoever, I'm going to re-invert the selection, and I'm actually going to grow this by 2 pixels, and for whatever reason, I'm going to put this at 100%. But this might help. Actually, you know what? That's not going to work. We're going to leave it as it is. These are just windows. It shouldn't be that bad. So anyways, we've got the start of our first specular side. We're going to just move on through our textures here and kind of just make all of these specular. So I'm going to just kind of work through this as quickly as I can. And this is kind of a tedious thing because, like I said earlier, I want this to be as exact as I possibly can because of artifacts and stuff. You can really get a lot of artifacts if you're not doing this specular right. If you got mixed pixels of different colors, I mean, it needs to be really fully white or whatever you're making it. It can't really be these mixes. So I'm kind of doing my best to simplify these edges and these weird areas that might confuse the shaders in game. And I don't know if this is really necessary or not, but like I said, I'm going to just do this to be safe and to see if it will help, and I don't think it will hurt other than making you guys watch this. So. And I laugh at that while you're probably scowling at me, but you know what? Teaching you fuckers how to do this, so poorly, but trying to teach you guys how to do this. Pardon my French, please. Okay, just adding pieces and removing pieces here, and I think I'm not going to go through the rest of this, really. I'm just going to finish this little row, and if there's any other pieces up there, it's just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to deal with it. I do want to make these even, though, the corners here. Something that should be really crisp is your edges, and none of this kind of junk will make it look ugly really quickly. Do a quick inspection here, missing some spots. Okay, so I think that's kind of what we want, and let's invert this and let's fill the back with black. And so now you can see in these areas, that's kind of what I'm talking about with the pixelation. That's a pretty quick way at screwing things up on your specular map. So I'm going to take the pencil and I'm literally just going to go through all this, and I'm going to paint it white. See if we can deselect that first. Paint all these spots white. I want this to be very non-confusing for the shaders, if you will. So if I can kind of bridge these gaps, I'm going to do that too, and not make it so jagged and ridgy or whatever. These are just kind of small little details here for this window. So to be honest with you, if we skipped this piece and just kind of made those, you know, all one color, or just didn't even worry about this detail, I'm sure we would be sitting okay. I mean, I don't think it would really necessarily hurt anything, but I guess it doesn't hurt to also do these things either. So, and I don't even know again, like if this is kind of following our texture very that well, but I'm just going to go ahead and wing it. Hopefully it will work out for the best. Okay, I'm going to increase the brush size here, and kind of getting tired of doing this in this fashion. So I'm going to go over here to this, and I probably should have done this from the get-go. My apologies. So everything we're painting white is going to be, again, reflective, and everything black is just going to be non-reflective. So like I said earlier, I'm not sure what you know, I'm painting on here. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue because of the detail of these small little windows, but you kind of want to be a little more careful with that if you're actually doing this on, you know, other sections of a model you care about, not for tutorial purposes and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind, and the only thing you want to take away basically from this is you don't want all of these pixelated parts in your texture. That's going to be a way that gives you some artifacts and kind of screws up your specular map. So having it black and white like this is going to be, I think, a little better. And our Illumination map will be a gray kind of situation like this. So anyways, moving on, let's move to the door, because that's going to be an easy one here, because the only thing we want is this white to be illuminated. Everything else can be black. For the bricks, those are going to be basically black as well, but what we're going to do is I want them to have just a tiny little bit of sheen. So instead of being 100% black, we're going to do that at maybe, I don't know, a 15% value, and we're going to hit, you know, another good way to do this is actually, let's go ahead and desaturate this layer. I don't want to cover the entire thing like I just did. That's going to nullify all of these little gaps and cracks and kind of make it look more generic. So what I'm actually going to do here is do some more leveling here on the levels here, and we're going to try to basically invert this so that what we get is black cracks and white, just kind of like this, kind of like what we do with the normal maps here, but we want it to be a little more, we can afford it to be a little darker actually, because we don't want it to be that shiny. So actually let's tone this down quite a bit, but let's make sure we have that dark, those dark cracks that still kind of show up, because we want those to be non-reflective. And so all these lighter gray, even the dark gray parts will be somewhat reflective. So I'm actually going to turn this down quite a bit here. I don't know why I was going a little crazy. Sorry. So we'll keep it like that. So as you can tell, it'll be somewhat reflective, but not. And the last thing I actually want to do is I want to level this out one more time, but I kind of want to take this all down a little bit and kind of even make it a little more matte, or not matte, but just, I don't know, even in a way. Okay, so now we'll move on to this roof. That should be another easy one. The roof should be generally non-reflective. I mean, it's kind of made out of material that's not that reflective, so I think this is our roof, isn't it? Yeah, I think this is our roof. Alright, so this one, what we'll do is we'll desaturate this as well. And let's see, I still think am I on the right? Yeah, I'm on the right layer. We're going to do the same kind of situation that we did on the last one. Again, we're going to be real careful to not make it too light because we don't want it to be like shiny like metal or anything. We just want it to be barely reflective, like it's not made of something that dull. So let's move this down actually and see what we can get here. Actually, I might do this and invert. Let's go back to the levels here and then see if we can darken it this way, and let's invert it one more time. I don't even know if it didn't do nothing. Okay, let's back that up. Just do this again. And maybe we'll just leave it like that. Now, if you really wanted to get grimy, you could actually select this little area here and kind of adjust that darkness. I'm not going to care about that at this moment. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is our little side accents here, and that's again another easy one. What we can do here is basically just fill this, and I'm going to make this maybe like an 8 or something. Actually, let's do this like a 4. I'm just going to fill that whole thing just like that because I don't really care about any difference in detail with that. So we've got our specular map. So let's go ahead and scale the entire image down to 512 by 512 and then export this to the desktop, and we will change this to S for specular, tutorial S. Go back to our desktop here, export. Excellent. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to do night lights, and it's probably a big question for some people, but what we want to do now is instead of black on some of these areas, what we actually want to do for illumination map is to change some of this to 50% gray basic, or 192, I'm sorry, the value 192. So you're going to have to look up a little more detail on what the specific values are, and I don't have something prepared, I do apologize, but it's all over the place if you actually do some searching. But there's a small range, or I'm sorry, the original range, like 1 through, I think it's like 180 or something. When you use that set of grayscale gray, that will actually utilize the diffuse color for illuminating it 24/7. In the daylight, at nighttime, it will always be illuminated. But you can use that to change the color of the lighting a little bit. The sacrifice is, based on how it works, you have to keep it illuminated the whole time. So the scale between, or I'm sorry, after that you have 8 or so digits, or 182, 183, 184, etc. About 8 or 9 digits or so that are just dead space. And then 192 is basically the end of that range, and that's the dead space or non-illumination. And a lot of people are starting to get artifacts because normally you would put black as non-illuminated for like the cars and vehicles, and then white and whatever for the illuminations. But for this actually new system, you want to actually buffer this with 192 on anything that gets illuminated. So all of these spaces in black around these windows, I'm actually going to change that to 192. So because we only have a couple windows in these sections here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flatten this image. I'm actually going to save this as a specular here real quick so we can have this for later. And now I'm going to flatten this image so that we don't need to necessarily care about this rest of the stuff here in a minute. And so I'm going to flatten the image, and I'm only going to select on this little spot right here with our windows. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of buffer here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer from just this segment. So now I have my clipboard layer, and for whatever reason that did not move correctly on top of that, which pisses me off because now I have to do this and try to line them up for whatever fucking reason. Okay. So now that's aligned, and so what I want to do now is basically I only want to select the white in this image You know what I'm going to do to make this simple, because these parts are going to give us some fucking problems. So I'm actually going to change this just for the time being to black. And those are just not going to be illuminated. Those are going to stay dark no matter what we do here. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually change my coloring so that this is going to be 192. And what I mean by that is all of these red, green, and blue, or I guess it's 75% value, but 192 is. And so what we want to do now is I want to change all my black in this layer. For whatever reason, I don't like how that actually shined up, so we're going to go here and select that little thing and actually make that black fully so it matches. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to select that and we're going to fill that with 192. So this is what I was talking about. So now anything in black down here, whatever, is just going to be completely non-illuminated, and we don't have to worry about that. But now with these buffers, we're going to have an ability to not have some artifacts. And I'm going to clean these areas up. For instance, all of these pieces, we're going to actually either illuminate or non-illuminate. So I think this is going to be an illuminated piece. This is an illuminated. And again, if you do better texturing than what I'm doing here, you probably won't have to do all of this. It will make it probably a lot simpler for you in the long run. So, because I'm not a good texture artist here, I'm having to do a lot of this the long way and the hard way, and it's not too fun. It's not too fun, but maybe I'll get good enough one day to be with the big dogs. So, till then, I'm going to spend hours fixing all my textures every time I do this. So what I'm doing is I'm actually just finding all these parts of the window that were pixelated due to the shadows and stuff, and I'm actually going to tell the system at nighttime, because you're not going to be able to see the detail of the shadowing anyway, just to illuminate these segments. And it may actually be a little off, but again, you're going to get the gist of how to make an illumination map in this game so that you're lighting it up, even if I'm a little off with these parts. That's not the important part. So don't listen to me messing this thing up. Just do what I say. So I'm going to select the 192 here, and we're going to go and just fill in these gaps. So these are going to be gaps in between the windows that I'm just like, you know what, not going to be lit. So 192 it is. Maybe if I'm smart here, we can up this up a little bit. Huh. I don't know how to change the pencil tool. I'll have to figure that out. Alright, so I kind of want that to match, so I'm not going to make that go all the way down. Actually, you know what? We want these to match too. So it's kind of little details like this that I sometimes end up overlooking that I need to get better at. And I think if you want to be a good modeler, you'll notice these little details. So a lot of these details that I'm picking out here are none of these windows weren't kind of lining up here. And because the way I put stuff in, it didn't really line up. So I'm kind of, if it's wrong, at least it's going to line up wrong. So it'll be uniform either way. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go over to these windows here, and we're going to do kind of the same situation, but this time I think it's going to be a little easier for us because we can do something simple here. I think I'm going to do this a really easy way. Deselect most of this here. I'm just going to grow this selection so that encompasses all of this. Actually, that's not going to work. Fuck it. We'll just do the pencil here. Do it the old way. Old-fashioned way. I think sometimes I try to think of ways to do these things a little more, like, I guess, procedurally or easily, and I end up messing myself up. So again, I think I can change this. Oh, great, pop this out. Make this a little easier on myself here. Anyways, I try to mess myself up trying to figure out what this stuff faster, but I don't know. Some people seem to have the same struggles as me, and others don't. So I think it just depends on kind of your skill level and knowledge base, and your experience modeling, your planning. I think planning is a huge thing in all of this, and some of the best modders out there and the guys that I respect in the asset making industry are guys that seem to really plan out their assets and kind of know what they're doing well ahead of time. Almost like a musician can kind of hear the music before they write it. These modders, some of these guys seem to be able to see this stuff before they actually do it. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I actually want to select these this white spots, but for whatever reason I clicked the color picker instead of the fuzzy tool. So deselect everything. I just want to select these items, and I'm going to grow the selection. So like I said, we give ourselves a little bit of that buffer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grow this by, actually, because these windows are so close, if I grow it, we're going to mess it up. So what we're going to have to do is just fill this with, yeah, we're just going to have to pick this, deselect everything here, and then we're just going to have to fill the rest with gray. Just call it good like that. And I'm hoping, and again, I'm not really the complete expert with Illumination maps. There's been several assets that I've made that with them, so I'm hoping that this works. Alright, for whatever reason this shit down here did not go, so let's just use our pencil tool. Clean that up. Okay. Excellent. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to oh, we got the window down here. Forgot. This one can actually, I don't know, we can, since this is a door window, this will be a simple one to illuminate, but so we haven't even illuminated anything. What we've done is just set up our illumination map, and it's really not complete yet, because the rest of this needs to be 192 as well. What I'm going to do is basically everything else that's not being lit. I think I said you can put it in black earlier, which I think you probably can, but I'm just going to do everything else in 192. So I'm going to select the whites and then the grays here and why. Okay, so for whatever reason, it looks like we have some stuff here that's not completely. Hold on a second. Actually, I was on the wrong layer. Let's select this, this. Alright, what just happened? Okay, let's look. Huh, I just think I messed up something with my, I don't know what just happened here. Did I just mess this up? I don't know. I don't know. Something's going on here. Let's figure this out real quick. I'm starting to run pretty high on the video length here, but let's figure this out. So this should be 100% and that should be 100%. So what the hell is going on here? Oh, we were clicking in the background, that's why. Okay, I know what was up. So let's merge this down. That's what we have to do here. Okay. Novice mistake. Novice mistake. Okay. So select all of that stuff. And okay, so for whatever reason, here we go. Here's Let's get our color picker out, because we've got, where is our color picker? We got this stuff here. Okay, that's 99 for whatever reason. So we're going to make this 100% white. Make sure that's all. Let's invert that. Make sure that's all white here. Okay, actually we're going to do this. We're going to select that and then make sure it's white. Okay, so we're good. We're good. Finally. Oh, see, fuck, we got one more little shit right there. That one little sucker would have probably messed stuff up on our Illumination map, you know? That's what I'm talking about. You gotta be real careful with this shit. So let's select everything finally, and let's flip this, and then do 192 here. And 192 again is the color value for the red, green, and we'll fill the background. So now our Illumination map is now prepped. So now we can change these windows to different colors of gray, again based on what I was talking about earlier. So anything above 192 is going to be randomly illuminated, but will not take any kind of coloring from the diffuse. What this will do is the game will make it kind of like a yellowish or whatever whiter color, and the higher the number this is, the more stronger the effect will be randomly. The lower the number, the more probable the random low effect will happen. So what we're going to do is try to change in the logical method, because each one of these blocks are windows, we're going to try to change these individual blocks into different, I guess, different levels of grayscale. So we'll take these for instance, and we'll change this to maybe like picking a random number here, 215. We're going to fill those windows with 215, and so we'll do the next thing with this chunk, and we'll do something close, maybe like 220 or something like that. I lied, 225. Okay, and let's say these ones I want to illuminate really high. Let's say, no, actually let's just do these at, like, let's see, what the first one was like 215, so let's do these at 110 or 210. Okay, now in these windows we'll just change these up, and these are for the garage windows. So on these ones I kind of want these to be uniform in a way. I don't want them to be all different colors, because I guess if the garage is on, they'd all be about the same color. And I want these to be relatively strong, I guess, so we'll do these at like 250 or something. And it's still going to be random, but it'll be randomly strong all in the same way. And you can barely tell that that's actually changed, but if we select that, that's definitely not completely white, so 98%. Anyways, what we'll do here, so that's going to be strong actually, so maybe we should drop this to like 235. Again, randomly picked numbers, but kind of based on that small scale. So we'll do our last window here. This is the door windows, and we'll do these at 250. We'll do these at 250. Okay, so our illumination map is complete. We'll export this to our desktop. Make sure we label this E, lowercase e actually. Okay. Export. So if we go to our desktop real quick and we start to pull away some of these textures we just made, we should now have our files looking like this. Now this is in my import folder here, and we should now have these files looking kind of like this. I'm going to delete these files. We have our FBX, our diffuse, our illumination map, which I labeled E for whatever reason, I for illumination. I'm an idiot. We've got the normal map here, and we've got our specular map. So the only thing left would be an alpha map or whatever, but we're not actually going to use that. So I think we're pretty much good. The only thing we need left is to finish our LOD, which I'm going to do in the next video. We're actually running about 40 minutes on this one, so we're going to do the next video with the LOD and the final import, and hopefully that will cover the system here. So see you guys in the next one.